Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host. Join me today from his bunker in Stillwater, Minnesota, Gunnar, the co-host of the Truth Expedition Show. How you doing there, Gunnar?
Today, thanks for having me. This is going to be a fun, exciting show. We're going to go over Trump's cabinet picks. There's a lot to discuss there.
There's a ton to discuss, and quite frankly, it's kind of like a roller coaster. I get very depressed at the initial ones, and I get really excited, and then it just crashed through the ground, including Matt Gaetz, all of a sudden withdrawing from the nomination. And that was like one of the most exciting picks he had. And you got some inside scoop on that. Run the dials as always, Mr. Deep State himself. Dawson, how you doing there, Dawson?
I'm doing good. Excited for this show. We got a big road trip ahead of us for Thanksgiving weekend. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. We're not Jesse's not joining us on the show today, but we are going to be reading your comments. If you'd like to interrupt Gunnar and myself at any time, go ahead and hit that Rumble Rant. It's a lot of fun. All you got to do is just do it on your phone right there, Rumble Rant, and it helps contribute to the show. Also, we'll read your comment live, whatever we're talking about. We're going to go to your comment next. I'll try to read as many comments as possible, both on YouTube and on Rumble as we do the show. A couple house cleaning things real quick. If you would like a chance to win front row seats to Jordan B. Peterson as he comes to St. Paul, Minnesota on January 27th, you can enter to win that sweet pair of tickets. I honestly wanted to do it myself. I wanted these tickets for myself, but I'd rather give it to one lucky fan who can invite a guest. So there's a pair of tickets. Dawson, do we have that up there? It's going to go, you go to truthhurtsnews.com/JBP as in Jordan B. Peterson, truthhurtsnews.com/JBP. We couldn't do the show without our great sponsors today, Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, give my good friend Warren Wessel a call at 612-419-7453. Another great sponsor of the show. And if you're buying a home, it's John Galt Mortgage Company. If you want someone that believes the things that you do to be the financier of that home, you got to go through John Galt Mortgage Company. You can go to johngaltmortgage.com, learn more about them. What's the risk? Just give them a chance trying to finance that home. They'll probably beat out the competitors. Also brought to you by Alpine Country in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Okay, house cleaning aside, let's get into it. Gunnar, I don't know. I think the best one to start with, and that's how I teased the show, was the Surgeon General pick. But let's look at all the picks. Dustin, let's pull this up. This is on my Twitter account. My handle's at JDuesenberg. So you see, I think this is, the New York Times put this up. It's kind of like the most important, maybe. And at the top left, it's already a screw up. You got Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Like, of all the people to represent the United States of America, and we have that goofball doing it. Then you got Pam Bondi, Attorney General, replacing Matt Gaetz. We'll get into that. Pete Hegseth, we talked about him last week. Then you got Kristi Noem. Like, that's just unimpressive, to be honest with you. If we're being really honest about, by the way, this is called the Truth Hurts. We're not just going to hold back. Like, we're going to tell you what we think about these things. And then, I mean, of course, there's a bunch that maybe we don't know as much about or maybe aren't as key positions, but we were really excited, obviously, about the Director of National Intelligence being Tulsi Gabbard. We were very excited about Robert F. Kennedy being in charge of the Health and Human Services. It's almost as you can overlook, at least Stefanik being part of his administration, or Doug Burgum, although I don't know how much damage can he do his interior. But here's an important one. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who happens to be a guy closely aligned with George Soros. You would think, like, oh no, we don't want Kamala Harris winning. She's probably going to have a George Soros crony appointed the Treasury Secretary. And it's like, no, that happened under Trump. We'll get into that one today. You can see the rest of the list here. Obviously, I'm a little butthurt. Matthew Whitaker became the NATO the NATO ambassador. I should probably know the job I was going for, right? That was all just a joke. But seriously, I could have done it, Trump. You could have appointed a real America First guy. But anyhow, this is the, according to the New York Times, I think they're only missing a couple posts, and they're much lower down the list of all of them. So, Gunnar, let's get right into this first one. This is Jeanette Nishawat. I didn't know who this person is, but, this is like my area of expertise. I don't look at all the potential surgeon generals waiting in there, but this is his pick on Fox News. Okay, so let's just set the stage. This is a woman who is literally going on media to push the COVID narrative of the establishment. You can't make this stuff up. Like, just like Anthony Fauci would do, she is going on and pushing the narrative of masking children. This is also on my Twitter account. Let's go ahead and watch this video, Dawson. Hopefully you saw us, Gunnar, because I know you can't hear it through the headphones. Play it.
Well, let's take a look at what we're dealing with right now, Alicia. We are dealing with a severe outbreak with Delta. It's spreading like wildfire, and it's putting our children in the hospital in record numbers. The coronavirus, this Delta strain, is affecting the younger population. We see more hospitalizations with those under the age of 50 and our children, and we now are running out of ICU beds. If you look at Arkansas, Alabama, Louisiana, Tennessee, we are running out of hospital beds. We are running out of ICU beds. The healthcare system is strained. So when we are dealing with these types of situations, we need to take action. And that starts with protecting everyone, because everyone is capable of spreading this virus from one person to another. And remember what happens when the virus spreads, it replicates, and then it has the opportunity to mutate. And that's when we see these stronger variants like Delta that are harder to control.
Gunnar, I know you can't hear the audio. I'm sure you've seen this video. She's literally doing a segment on Fox News advocating for masking up children, to stop the spread of COVID because hospital beds are filling up. The same scare tactics that everyone else that we had criticized during COVID. Can you work around this insanity of making sense out of this pick for Surgeon General?
I think a lot of the picks are very strange here, but when you look at even Trump himself, he was a proponent of the warp speed. He was a proponent of masking early on. I think that we should always allow folks to learn from their mistakes, right? On the other side of that is the obvious nature in which that operation rolled out. And folks who were not able to detect that, I think, are a little suspicious. We should invite folks into the cabinet that were correct about this from day one. That's my opinion. I think everyone has an ability to learn from their mistakes and evolve their position. Here, it seems like she has come back and made statements like she's unsure why so many vaccines are in a childhood vaccine schedule, and she questions whether or not the COVID vaccine needs to be added to that. So I'll applaud her on that. Still very skeptical of what may come from this. I think when you're talking about double masking, vaccinations with this controversial experimental drug, I think it's very concerning to have someone up there who's going to push it.
All right, let's go to the A3 Dawson, because it's interesting you talk about the COVID jab. Is this going to get us off Twitter? YouTube now? I can't remember.
Yeah, probably.
What are the rules these days?
Who knows?
Well, God, we might be off YouTube again. Jeez, how dare we talk about something so important? This is her talking about not just the COVID jab, it's talking about the booster, which it's almost like, you're probably like me, Gunnar, that so many people, probably relatives and close friends, that got the initial 2, right? Or if they got the Johnson & Johnson, just 1. I know a lot of these people. Not me. I didn't do it, okay? But I know a lot of these people. It seemed like at some point, the amount of boosters you got, or even if you got 1, almost more certainly tells us how you voted, right? It just seems like the people that kept going down there are really bought in to the leftist agenda. So this is Jeanette Nishwat, once again going on Fox News to talk about, this is November 2021, about the booster shot.
Now have clear-cut, compelling data. A trial of 10,000 participants, this was just posted on the CDC website, that showed those who had a 3rd dose, a booster shot, had significantly more improvement, more protection, more antibodies than those who did not have that 3rd dose. So we definitely know, especially going into the winter holidays, having that extra protection can help minimize infection, can help minimize spread. So if you are especially over the age of 50, the CDC now recommends you should definitely get a booster. But over the age of 18, you can definitely get one as well, especially if you have asthma, diabetes, obesity.
Yeah, I mean, and when I see her on that, just pushing, which a lot of those are just falsehoods at this point. We know that to be falsehoods. Even if it has more antibodies, it didn't stop people from getting it. It certainly didn't stop the spread of COVID, which they never even tested for, which should be a big scandal, but they don't care, right? So it's like none of this seems to be even true at this point, but it's almost so concerning to me. It's that she is playing a role that we watch so many people do that are supposed medical experts, like Sanjay Gupta, who literally on Fox went on Joe Rogan to push the vaccine jab. So you're saying she's like changing her views on this? Like, what's new about this? Like, is she just saying not for children's schedule, or has she admitted that she was wrong about it?
No, and that's the real issue. She hasn't largely admitted any wrongdoing or gone through and looked at her previous statements. I think that obviously is a concern. When she's willing to look at the overall safety profile, I'll again applaud her when she questions whether or not it should go into the child vaccine schedule. I think that is commendable. But if you're not willing to go back and say that the vaccine was actually dangerous, that masking had little to no effect, and really question the intelligence community's role and question the operation that rolled out, questioning Fauci, I'm still going to be very skeptical. We'll have to wait and see whether or not her position evolves, or if she's just going to be another establishment deep state crony.
I see Whiskey Tingle Foxtrot says, why are we bringing back female Fauci in? That's a good point. If she was pushing it in 2021, she's a traitor, says Scuba McSalty. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's something I have to learn how to do, how to forgive. Maybe I have to learn how to forgive. But going through COVID and listening to these people, I mean, just the way that I listen to her, I go, you're like worse than just someone that got duped. You are literally pushing the narrative. How did we get to Trump making such an important decision to go on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan have such a huge impact on the election? I'm not saying that Joe Rogan's the reason Trump won, but the fact that Trump went on that podcast, it got, I don't know, 100 million views, something like that. It's ridiculous. We don't even know. It started, in my opinion, back in COVID, where Joe started questioning the official narrative, and we should have all the time in every different media outlet, we should be able to challenge ideas right in front and decide which one's the best idea. So Joe has Sanjay Gupta on, the medical expert for CNN, medical expert, and literally he just dismantles this guy's arguments. And you're like, oh my God, there's really not much to Sanjay Gupta. Like all these people that would have trusted Sanjay Gupta over the years, and you're like, oh my God, this is who this guy is. And so it's like, she seems to be one of the same kind of people. Apparently, she just is favored by the right. Although, with that being said, pull up the A3, Dawson. She's also liked by, I'm sorry, A4. There you go. You're ahead of the game. That was right. She's liked by Peter Hotez, the guy that got a little tizzy with Joe Rogan and refused to come on and debate RFK Jr. This guy is the biggest vaccine pusher out there. He says, a good appointment. Happy about this. I got to know Dr. Jeanette during the pandemic, exchanging information. She is very smart, thoughtful, interested in learning, and a compassionate doctor, and a truly nice person. Oh, my God. If that's your endorsement, Peter Hotez, that guy, I'm like, Trump, what are we doing here? Now, yes, he made a great pick at Health and Human Services if he gets nominated. But can't Trump just, I mean, listen, if he's got a mandate, that's debatable, but if he's got a mandate, I lean towards he's got a mandate. The mandate is clearly about going a different direction in this country. How is she going a different direction? What am I not seeing on this one?
No, and I don't think that she is going to be really going in much of a different direction here. I mean, maybe her stance on the mutilation of minors and trans surgeries, maybe she has a favorable opinion on that. But when Hotez says that during that Operation COVID, that he was in contact with her and that she was willing to do the bidding of the establishment, that is concerning. And think about this. They have other schemes, plans, viruses in the works for us. COVID was planned years ahead of time, maybe even decades. That operation was seamless, really. I mean, half of the population didn't see it, still doesn't. They're in line for boosters, what have you. I still see masking coming back. I just recently went on a trip to Nevada, which is a red state. Even there, folks were masking. So I think that there is a concern here that the establishment is going to continue its propaganda mechanism on the people, and she's just going to be another cog in the machine that doesn't question that type of activity.
You know, I see this comment from Gray Matter Show says, I voted for Trump, but some of these picks are just adding to swamp. And actually, that's really good. I'm not going to ask you who you voted for, Gunnar, but I voted for Trump. I was very open on this show. I actually didn't vote for Trump in 2016. I went third party. I went Gary Johnson, who didn't know where Aleppo was, so he's less likely to bomb it. It's more of a protest vote. I voted for Trump.
I voted for my parents in 2016 because I thought that they were better suited, even, without being in politics. I thought they were substantially better suited. And then in 2020, I voted George Jorgensen.
Yeah, I couldn't have voted for Joe. I actually voted for Trump in 2020 because it was a protest vote. I was so disillusioned by so many things, but especially what they did with the Hunter Biden story. I'm like, it's like a protest vote against establishment. In many ways, it was in 2024. I am not at all surprised. I mean, like, do we not know who Trump is at this point? Like, well, first of all, I got to preface this with, if Kamala Harris was your option, there was no chance of good nominations, right? There's no chance. At least with Trump, it's like, you're reacting to a new political landscape. That's why, I mean, there's so many things against him, and he still won, which means the landscape has changed, because this Trump wouldn't have won in 2020, and this Trump wouldn't have won in many other years, but he won in 2024 because the landscape's changed, and that's because people are sick and tired of what's going on in Washington, D.C. They see, because of the advent of new media, which you and I have a role in. You do it on the Truth Expedition with Mark Bashowski. Love the show, by the way. Filmed here in studio, and you guys have now done a couple shows from afar, so you guys got to get content out there as much as you can. I know Mark's really busy, but because of the advent of new media, people are starting to actually learn and expose what's going on and the lies that have been told by the establishment. And so that's what got Trump elected. And so I look at these picks and I go, oh my God, like, you could have done so much better. You could have really stuck a middle finger at the establishment. You certainly did with RFK Jr. You certainly did with Tulsi Gabbard. By the way, the two good picks by Donald Trump, it's not lost on me, are Democrats. That's like his two best picks right now are Democrats. I mean, they could say, Tulsi could say she's Republican. Are you really, though? I mean, you were a Democrat just 4 years ago. You're still a liberal, although I'm a fan of her, especially when it comes to foreign politics. And RFK Jr. is like as Democrat as they come. It's from the Kennedy family. So, I was obviously excited about Matt Gaetz. So let's go into that. Well, actually, you know what? Before we go to Matt Gaetz, I don't want to just be a naysayer. There are other options out there. Let's go to A6. So Donald Trump could have picked, I'm assuming he could have promoted, the Surgeon General from Florida. This is, what's this gentleman's name? We had reported about this. Dr. Joseph Ladapo. This is a story we did at Action for Liberty at the beginning of this year. Florida Surgeon General has done something very few individuals in the public health space have been willing to do. Caution people about the experimental COVID shot. Citing concerns over DNA fragments found in the approved Pfizer Moderna RNA shots, Dr. Joseph Ladapo sent a letter to the FDA and CDC requesting information about their safety assessments. Turns out the FDA's written response provided no evidence that the safety assessments were conducted using its own very own guidelines. Dr. Ladapo concluded, and then basically he concluded that these are not appropriate for use in human beings. Okay? Now, I am going to guess, hey, T-Wall. T-Wall says, good afternoon. I say, good afternoon to you too, T-Wall. I'm just going to go on a limb and guess that this is what's going to get us taken off YouTube because I'm talking about the Florida Surgeon General, But it's not that.
I think you're still allowed to question things. I think at the most part, we have to say we're not. It's inconclusive. You can say it may not be safe, but we should still adhere to local recommendations. Something like that, I think, is the disclaimer we need.
Okay, well, you said it, Mr. Lawyer.
There you
go. I think we'll still get wiped off YouTube. That's why we're on Rumble, by the way. So anyhow. he could have gone a different direction. It shows it's like, I know there's a lot of people on our side that are just always going to complain and whine. So I'd like to at least offer solutions or give the idea that there is another way to go. And so Trump literally could have picked someone like that. And there's a long list of, there are surgeons out there that were really vocal during COVID saying the right thing. He could have gone that direction and he didn't. And to the point where he's getting someone that Peter Hotez endorses. Certainly Peter Hotez wouldn't endorse the Surgeon General in Florida. I'll give you the last word on this one.
No, I really do think that there is something to the new Surgeon General Nishuat that is going to be an establishment player. I think that Trump has some insight into some of his selections, but I'm not entirely sure it's Trump making all of those selections at the end of the day. Howard Lutnick, others who are in charge of his transition team are the ones who are making these recommendations. So while Trump is, I think he's got good selections, he's also throwing a bone to the establishment to a degree. So this is a very strange situation where we're seeing within his cabinet what is going to be an internal struggle. So we'll chat more about that with these next elections.
Okay, let's go to the next one. We've got Pam Bondi in at Attorney General, which is a very important role. Some would argue maybe the most important for Donald Trump since lawfare was initiated against him. Matt Gaetz was announced, 2 weeks ago now? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. God, time moves fast. You believe it's November 26th already? I can't believe it. Like Thanksgiving on Thursday. It's crazy. So you literally got within about a week's time, Matt Gaetz withdraws. This whole thing is bizarre. Obviously, he's being investigated in an ethics committee. We knew about that. Matt Gaetz resigned from Congress 2 days before that was going to be made public. But he still is the congressman-elect in his Florida district, and he's saying that he doesn't want to take that seat again. What the hell happened? You got some insight on this one.
I think that this is very strange, and it also meets the MO of the state. Whenever we have a influential candidate who could really make change, there is a slew of different campaigns or different allegations they can throw at a candidate. And what we see the same thing with Gaetz. This goes back to 2016 in Florida, where his friend invited him to a party. His friend was a tax collector in Florida, Mr. Greenberg. He was also in charge of issuing IDs. He was in charge of issuing Florida's driver's licenses. And he was able to secure fake IDs for a bunch of underage girls. He brought those girls to a party with a bunch of party drugs. Gaetz was there. You know the rest of the story, effectively. A few years afterwards, his father was involved in an extortion racket where they said to his father, "We have dirt on your son. Give us $25 million to help us secure the release of an Israeli national in an Iranian prison." And Matt Gaetz said, "I don't have anything to do with this. I'm innocent." His father wore a wire with the FBI. The material exonerated the family, but the FBI will not release that recording. So we have blackmail operation, just like Epstein, who Matt Gaetz also said he knew who killed Epstein. It was a foreign government, but he wasn't going to say which one. He went onto a podcast and made these statements. He also said that he was going to look into insider trading. Now, when you combine all of those statements in that position, you have someone who's absolutely untenable in that role if you're the deep state. He is incredibly scary in that role to the establishment, which is why they couldn't have him.
Okay, so did Trump actually want Matt Gaetz? I mean, I know a lot of people think this was some decoy or some, the art of the deal. He puts out a far extreme candidate that gets eaten alive, and then he gets the other ones in because they look, more palatable by comparison. Did Trump actually want Matt Gaetz, and did he want him for these very reasons?
That's the conundrum here. I think that there is a contradiction in his selections. You have folks like Nishawat and Kennedy. How is that war going to play out? You have folks like Gabbard and Hegseth. How is that going to play out? In terms of whether or not he actually wanted Gaetz, I hope so. And I hope so in a way that is MAGA, that is in line with America First, that does not want to start wars, endless wars, and does actually want to instigate a fight against the deep state. Matt Gaetz was that guy. I think that there is a groundswell of support behind this type of inquiry. We want to dismantle the deep state. Whether or not Gaetz was truly going to do that, I think he was. Whether Trump really wanted him, I hope so. We'll see what happens with Pam Bondi. I think that she's going to be the opposite of Gaetz. She's going to be a deep state team player.
Yeah, and that's what's so upsetting about it. I know Trump, it's being rumored Trump is going to pick Kash Patel for FBI director, which could be pretty monumental. That's only a rumor, although it seems to me that these rumors pretty much always come true, right? Until Trump actually outright says it's not going to happen, like Mike Rogers. This is Pam Bondi. This is probably the most concerning thing I have seen on Pam Bondi. For those that don't know, she's been in the good graces of the Florida Republican establishment. She was the Attorney General of Florida at one point. In 2016, she was a Jeb Bush gal. She was a cheerleader for Jeb Bush. If that was your senses, I don't know. I'm trying to think, is there anyone that was Team Jeb that somehow navigated to a spot where I could respect them politically? I can't think of an example. Maybe there is one. But if you thought in 2016, yeah, the election should be a Clinton versus Bush, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, obviously, I was in the majority of the country because the majority was like, no, we want Trump, and we want Trump over Hillary Clinton, right? And Trump had a lot of flaws. All right, so this is something that I dug up the other day. And Dawson, let's play this. This is her on Newsmax discussing in the last year what should happen to students who are expressing their viewpoints on college campuses. Now, remember the First Amendment, because I am just a First Amendment absolutist, right? You have a right to free speech. The government can't infringe on your right to free speech, okay? Especially the Attorney General, okay? You don't want the Attorney General infringing on your freedom of speech, okay? Now, it wasn't written for speech that everyone liked. It's written for speech that people find controversial. The ACLU at one point agreed with that idea. They used to defend the Ku Klux Klan, which I would as well, in the sense that they have a right to speak even if what they're saying is atrocious and is racist and stupid. But I also believe that when people put out their bad ideas, it actually hurts their movement because people, especially with the advent of the internet, people are easily going to take down those bad ideas. So this is Pam Bondi talking about what should happen to these protesters. Go ahead and play it.
Democrats like Alan Dershowitz have sounded the alarm over the growing virulent strain of Jew haters in the Democrat Party. It appears their agents in the unfair press are carrying that water. It is dangerous, is it not?
Yeah, it's very dangerous, Chris. It's extremely dangerous. And, you know, you look around, the thing that's really the most troubling to me, these students in universities in our country, whether they're here as Americans or if they're here on student visas, and they're out there saying, I support Hamas. You and I have seen that on all of these television shows. Frankly, they need to be taken out of our country, or the FBI needs to be interviewing them right away when they're saying, I support Hamas, I am Hamas. That's not saying I support all these poor Palestinians who are trapped in Gaza. That's not what they're saying. So I think their student visas need to be revoked. I think we need to reinstate President Trump's travel ban immediately. There's a lot of things that can be done to stop this. But yeah, the anti-Semitism is rampant throughout this country now. And it's truly, truly heartbreaking to see what's happening to all of our Jewish friends in this country by really just, I think, a lot of ignorant kids and students and people who don't understand that Hamas equals terrorism.
You know, it's so interesting. There's so many things to diagnose. I know you can't hear it, Gunnar. Have you seen that clip yet?
There were subtitles, so that was fine.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good. Yeah, so the subtitles work very well. So obviously, I think you and I are very much in agreement on this whole thing. You and Mark have talked at lengths and had great conversations with some interesting interviews. We're in this like gray area, okay? So on one side you have you got the Zionists, you got the Christian right, the evangelical Christian right, Mike Huckabee, types that are just almost Israel can do no harm, right? On the other side, you got the far left, which we would maybe agree somewhat on policy, and you got to stop the carnage in Gaza, stop killing innocent civilians. But they go so far to say that Hamas is great, or we support Hamas. Okay, what a stupid, stupid thing to say, because Hamas is a terrible organization. Okay, so you got these two sides. We're kind of this gray area. But both sides have a right to say that. They can say what they want. I can go and have a conversation. We'll put it out there. I don't know. Have them on the show. Whatever. In the public square, we'll have the conversation. We'll debate. That's America. You have a right to do that. To make the argument that you would deport somebody or the idea that you would have the government harass them. She says the FBI, which she would be in charge of, the FBI interviewing these people for what? Saying that they support Hamas, as dumb of idea that is, they have a right to say that, right? Just as if,
oh, indeed,
just as if a leftist says, "I support Karl Marx." I think that's really dumb, but you have a right to say it. Sorry, go ahead, Gunnar.
I think the saying is one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. Now, I don't agree with Hamas. I don't agree with all of their actions. But I do think that there needs to be obviously a ceasefire, and we need to reassess our military spending in the region. Now, that is a very lucid conversation to have, and when that conversation gets conflated with Hamas supporters, people who are rioting on campuses, it really does tamp down the free speech of folks in a way that is tamping down anti-war activists. And I think this really does parallel what happened after September 11th. Now, I was a little more skeptical during September 11th. I wasn't so, let's go get them, let's go do all this stuff. But I saw that propaganda resonate with the right, and it was targeted. The right was targeted by that propaganda. It resonated with them. And remember, we're not going to call them French fries anymore. They're freedom fries. There are all these things that went through because the French were opposed to the war. So
yes, and plus we got attacked for our freedom. Don't you know that, Gunnar? That's right. Why the guys living in caves come over to America and attack us because of our freedom. That's why.
Right. Right. No, and so we absolutely need to be able to discuss all of these things. It's one thing to advocate for violence, which is not good, and we should not be advocating for violence against the state or against other people. But it's another thing entirely to open up a discussion about what's right and what's wrong. And I think folks on the left, I think there's that other saying where, if you're not Democrat when you're young, you don't have a heart, and if you're not a Republican when you're older, you don't have any wisdom or a mind. And I think those kids have heart. They're misguided, but they're misguided because the propaganda messaging from the right is so strong. And from the left, I think it also is incredibly diluted with woke type of messaging that doesn't allow these students the nuance in discussion that's required to really confront this current situation.
But is the messaging coming from the right here? Because it's just like a Zionist message that for some reason has this alliance with the evangelical right in this country, which is problematic in of itself. I know some of our audience might actually feel that way. We've been led to do that. My parents do. I had that nice discussion over the weekend with them. It's goofy in two ways. First of all, I would imagine if Jews, and you are actually our resident Jew here, Dawson,
Yep.
they would think that Jesus Christ is blasphemous, right? They would think that he's a false prophet and is in hell. Wouldn't they think that?
Yeah, you kind of lose your Jew card when you say that you were born from God in Jews' eyes.
Yeah. And so there's this incongruence there, even though obviously, the religion traces back to the same roots, but so does Islam, by the way. But the other thing that gets me is I think that we just learned that it was 73%. That number sounds right. It was in the 70s of Jews in America voted for Kamala Harris. So they are, I mean, this has been the case for a long time, but Jews actually don't vote Republican at all. And so I don't know. I don't know if this is really just the Republican talking point. This seems to be a way above and beyond Republicans to the point where even people at the highest echelons of the Democrat hierarchy are saying the same talking points. Do I have this wrong, Gunnar?
No, I think you're so right about that. I think the odd thing about this particular issue is that there's a lot of people on the right and the left that are getting together and hold the same opinion. We want to reassess our military spending. We don't want to see bombs being dropped on innocent children, on churches in Gaza, in the West Bank, or in Lebanon for that matter. We don't want to see a buildup of war with Iran. And that is a message that we will not be allowed to unify on. And I think that we're going to have to continue to assess this. Why is, if the Democrats truly are opposed to this, why are then the establishment Democrats going along with it? If you look at the AIPAC tracker, so many members of our Congress have been given money to their campaigns and under the table to support these measures. And that, I think, isn't really a left-right issue anymore. It's an establishment issue because largely there are people on the right that are unified with this message that people carry on the left. It's a universal message. Most people around the world want to see this stop. But the contradiction really is in the in the United States. Max Blumenthal and others have done excellent work in pointing out the contradiction in the theology and the eschatology, because truly what this is about is land rights in Israel and the Temple Mount. So everyone is familiar with the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. That is the only place that a Jewish temple can be. There's been 2 of them in history. They're attempting to build a 3rd. And when that happens, it will be a religious war. And I think most folks are not on board with that. And when that religious war occurs, you're going to have Jews naming their Messiah, which in Judaism won't be Jesus. And then Christians seeing that figure as the Antichrist. That is a huge issue. People are being led by their beliefs to a holy war. And my whole thing is, can we reassess that position? Maybe wait for God's authority to go ahead and kill each other in this manner? But the contradiction is there with Christian Zionists fighting to restore the temple, which will ultimately lead in a holy war and battle. And that to me is concerning, especially when in the Old Testament, the world is going to be destroyed again by fire. And that's certainly possible now with the nuclear. Trump has mentioned this. He mentioned this on the Rogan show, but I don't know how his alliances are going to play out in this matter.
Yeah, and he certainly hasn't differed too much from the Biden administration when it comes to Israel. In fact, it seems like the only thing that he's different from is that it just never would have happened under him. October 7th never would have happened under him. It's like, okay, well, we can't prove you wrong in that, but it just seems like it's the same thing as, maybe you could say Biden's shown a little bit more restraint towards the continuation, but Netanyahu just ignores Joe Biden, doesn't care. They're going to continue on, Boy, we really could go on and on about that issue, but I got to be respectful of time. Can you hang on just for the Treasury Secretary pick?
Of course.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So I want to get into this because this is also interesting. This dropped on, I think it was Saturday, maybe it was Sunday or Saturday night. He picked a guy that I don't think is known by so many. Actually, not a Goldman Sachs guy. Okay, seems like there's a revolving door with the U.S. Treasury Department and Goldman Sachs. So, yay, we don't have a Goldman Sachs guy. Good job, Trump. No, instead, we have a guy who literally was the chief investment officer for George Soros. You cannot make this stuff up. Now, once again, I'm not saying this is all a lost cause. I'm not saying Trump is sold out, okay? We knew who Trump was, okay? I knew what I was getting into. We've said it on the show many times. I think it's our job and our role to call out the bullshit. This is called the Truth Hurts Show. That's why we called it a show that's talking about tough truths, right? Because sometimes you have to realize that in the world of politics, people are leading you astray or people are leading Trump astray, but it's going to be blamed on Trump. It doesn't mean, I'm not saying turn on Trump or anything like that. I'm saying you need to be understanding of what's going on and speaking out against it, right? People need to raise their voices so Trump and his handlers know this stuff doesn't fly. All right, so let's go into the C1. This is from the Economic Times, and this is Scott Bessent, gay billionaire. I guess, in the world of identity politics, that's what we have to care about is what he does in his private time. Who once worked for George Soros as Trump's pick for Treasury Secretary. Who is he? President-elect Trump picked investor Scott Bessent, an advocate for deficit reduction and deregulation, to serve as Treasury Secretary. Trump picked the billionaire hedge fund manager to lead an economic agenda that is expected to be built around raising tariffs and cutting taxes. Scroll down here real quick. All right. Bessent, who is from South Carolina, attended Yale University and sought to become a journalist, but when he didn't get the post as editor of the Yale Daily News, he changed direction. Bessent secured an internship with money manager Jim Rogers, George Soros' first partner and co-founder of the Quantum Fund. He told his university's alumni magazine, reports CBS News. By the way, I would have much preferred if he just hung with Jim Rogers instead of went George Soros' direction. He served as chief investment officer of Soros' fund management, the macroeconomic investment firm of billionaire George Soros. In 2015, he raised capital, including $2 billion from Soros. So first of all, it's not like I'm talking about back in the 80s he worked for George Soros, right? He worked as recent as 2015 for George Soros, and then he goes and starts his own hedge fund with a $2 billion investment from Soros. So this is the guy that Trump picks. I mean, you can't make this kind of stuff up. Literally, I can imagine us going, oh, my God, we can't have Kamala Harris. She'll pick a George Soros person in her cabinet. And Trump has literally picked a George Soros person in his cabinet. And I would argue one of the most important roles in the cabinet, the Treasury Department. How do you see this one?
Well, I think obviously Soros is an issue. Not needing to get into the background there, I'm sure everyone is aware of how Soros uses his money to fund DEI and woke initiatives around the world. I would have been happy with a Goldman Sachs compared to this, or even BlackRock. I mean, BlackRock would be like, oh, okay, that's pretty obvious. But Soros, this is very strange. And especially when you look at the Soros-backed DEAs, the DAs that have been hounding Trump with lawfare. So this is a very interesting pick. Obviously, I would have wanted a libertarian from the Mises Institute, but that's not what we're getting. We're getting probably another establishment player, and we're going to have to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, my pick would have been Jim Grant, a famed Wall Street bear who basically, is Interest Rate Observer is, was that a monthly publication? I think it's a monthly publication. Actually has the Daily Grant podcast, which is awesome. That would have been my pick. That would have been really good for the Treasury Department. Now, he can still put Jim Grant in charge of the Fed, which would be great. and we can put him in charge of the Fed to end the Fed. But Treasury Department is a damn important role, and it's like, man, you put it in the hands of a Soros guy. It's unreal. All right, I got to be respectful of your time. I asked for a half hour. I got 45 minutes from you, Gunnar. Next show on Truth Expedition, when are we expecting the next show?
We are interviewing Marsland tomorrow at 1:30 our time. 1 o'clock our time. We're going to have a live show. Marsland helped Dr. Pierre Corey create his clinic. So he's one of the leading experts in vaccine injury treatments and the protocol behind the vaccine schedules. So he is going to be incredibly informative, and we can have an enlightening discussion about how to cure vaccine injury. So that'll be an exciting show.
Okay, and folks can look up Truth Expedition on Rumble. I think you guys are only on Rumble because YouTube would definitely take you guys off every single
time
episode.
We try to put a show on YouTube, it gets taken down. So we are over the target. That is for sure. Yeah, we have a lot of fun. We've got good guests, but we are censored. So
yeah, you guys go deep. I love it. Thanks so much, Gunnar, and thanks for your expertise.
Yes, of course. Peace, everyone. Don't go starting any new wars. I think we still have a good president in Trump, but he needs to hear our voices. So keep speaking out. Keep telling people your displeasure. Write your Congress people, and keep up the good fight.
All right. Awesome. Thanks very much, Gunnar. All right. Before we go to Minnesota-specific news, I want to talk about our great sponsors, Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, give my good friend Warren Wessel a call at 612-419-7453. And if you're looking to buy a home, give the good guys at John Galt Mortgage Company a chance of financing that home. You can go to johngaltmortgage.com, and also brought to you by Alpine Captree in St. Cloud. We'll continue reading your comments. I see O'Bannon said the truth hurts. The Chicago Bears suck. Well, that is fair, and that is unfortunately the truth hurts. I am a Chicago Bears fan, but there is no doubt they suck this year. No doubt. Absolutely zero doubt that they suck. But that's okay. We got a lot to look. What?
I said, did you say this year?
Ouch. Oh, you're just piling in. I love it. Jeez. I had no expectations of being the Vikings, but when you go into overtime, you hurt us. You hurt us when you lose in overtime, especially when you come back with like 11-point deficit or something like that with less than a minute left. Oh, gosh. That's all right. We still have a Super Bowl. Vikings don't have any Super Bowls. I could just hear Tushy right now. How many Super Bowls do the Packers have? All right. Let's go to Minnesota news. Just a little update on the story we were covering about the recounts in Scott County and in Stearns County. Nope, not Stearns County. Sherburne County. Both recounts occurred, and it only changed one vote. By the way, recounts are kind of a little overblown. For the most part, they don't change the vote by much. So they are announcing Brad Tapke as a winner in, and it's been certified in Scott County, and then the one in Sherburne County, Dan Wolgamott, which is a 190-point victory for Wolgamott. That's the vodka chugger. That has to be certified by the state board because it's multiple counties. Scott County, or 54A, is all inside Scott County. So that leaves the balance of power for the Minnesota House, 67-67. There you go. Although they are going to try to petition the Supreme Court to stop the certification officially of the Scott County election. So maybe temporarily Brad Tapke won't get appointed. Remember, there's those 21 mysterious ballots that are gone. Okay, well, needless to say, the House went 67-67 a tie, meaning the Republicans did not win back the House, which means David Hann is a tremendous failure for Minnesota. Now, this is the Rhino chairman who took over, let's see, what was that? Was that 2021, 2022, something like that? I think. He was definitely in place before 2022. And Carnahan was definitely the chair in 2020. So somewhere between 2020 and 2022. I can't remember exactly which day it was, or date. But he lost the 2022 election. In fact, there was supposed to be a red wave, and we got a mini blue wave. And in Minnesota, despite the red sea that we were seeing all across the country, Minnesota remained blue. So here we go. I see O'Bannon says DeJournette for chair ought to get Royce worked up. I actually got a story on that. DeJournette apparently got removed as an option for chair by the MNGOP. We'll talk about that in the post show. I got some insider information. If you want the sneak peek, you can be part of our post show, be a supporter of the show. You can go to truthhurtsnews.com and click on the top to support us, and you get a free locals account, $8 a month. I'm going to tell you guys what I learned about Jennifer DeJournette being removed by the party, not allowing them to run for chair. There's so many interesting things going on. By the way, apparently somebody wants to come on our show that's running for deputy chair. I'll talk about that in the post show. You're going to have a good post show here. But anyhow, Chairman David Hann, he sent out this. This is like a little different than most mailers, but this one was sent out. This was sometime in October. This was an urgent gram. So interesting. You got to detach the top part, okay? You can detach the top part and send that in with your money. Asking for $100. Yeah, right. Dear Jake, the Democrats are dead set on retaining their chokehold on power in Minnesota. By the way, they still have a chokehold on Minnesota's power. They are working around the clock to defeat Republicans, put their radical candidates in office at every level, and cement their crazy woke ideology in our state for good. Our mission is critical, and that's why I'm sending you this urgent gram. Your continued help of $100 or more is urgently needed for victory up and down the ballot, says David Hann. All right, Dawson, pull up. I just put this article up there. You guys can check it out. The failures of David Hann. Rhino. We got so much on this guy. Jesse has talked at lengths about his problem. Obviously, we probably were the one media that actually wanted to talk about what he did to Otter Tail County and just removing hundreds of delegates that were duly elected on caucus night. This guy unilaterally decided, I'm just going to remove these guys. They're not going to be delegates anymore. That's all. This guy's so anti-grassroots. Anyhow, scroll down here. This is the list of failures just in 2024 of David Hann. He failed to win Minnesota's 10 electoral votes for Trump. He failed to expand Minnesota's GOP congressional delegation. In fact, if you look at their books, the federal books of the MNGOP, they went all in on Joe Tayrab winning the 2nd congressional district, and they also wanted to win Tad Jude's seat in CD3. They failed at both of those. In fact, both lost by double digits. Number 3, he failed to win the Minnesota Senate with an SD 45 special election. That was Kelly Morrison's seat. She retired because she was running for U.S. Congress, which she won because they failed to beat her. Number 4, he failed to flip the Minnesota House. In this case, thanks to Trump, enough people voted for Republicans that it actually is a dead heat tie. Okay? Say what you will. At least the Democrats don't have a complete trifecta, but the Republicans don't run the Minnesota House. And number 5, he failed to defend GOP endorsements in the August primary. We talked about that on the show. How he let these GOP endorsements fail, like let's see, Grayson, McNew, what's the gentleman that ran against Greg Davids, got involved in some of these races too. Although Jimmy Gordon's a race car driver. Why am I forgetting Jimmy's last name? Brain fart here. This is where I need Jesse. Anyhow, Jimmy, the former Isani County mayor, he didn't do anything to help him out. Luckily, that guy still won. So anyhow, these are 5 big failures of David Hann in this election year alone. And you could also go back to all the other years that he's had tremendous failures. And this guy, you would think, oh, Jake, you're just being mean. You're being cruel. Like, how dare he can't win all those things. Well, guess what? This mailer lists 5 things that David Hann seeks to do, and this is in the article. I just took a screenshot of it, but in this, he literally lists those 5 things. Number 1, we must bring back Minnesota's electoral votes for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. All right, so he lists that. Number 2, we must reelect our 4 Congress members and get 2 more dedicated conservatives, Joe Tayrab in 2nd District and Tad Jude in 3rd District. Nope, you failed at that. Number 3, you must win the special election in the State Senate District 45. You failed at that. Number 4, we must flip just 4 out of 134 seats in the state house. You failed at that. You only got 3. And number 5, we will help Republicans win in the Lake Elmo area and across Minnesota at every level, from the school board to President-elect Donald Trump. By the way, this was talked about by Royce White. Did you notice how Royce wasn't even on it? The U.S. Senate candidate wasn't even on it. Now, listen, I know Royce wasn't going to win. I mean, I hoped he did, but we just know that Amy Klobuchar is tough to beat. But if you're going to say all these things, you should at least at the GOP say, we also want to win the U.S. Senate district. So Royce White felt slighted. Here's Rhino Hand's re-election announcement that went out via email. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, and we'll actually give you some gossip. I see TZ Bar says, certainly not Kip. Well, let's hang around for the post show there, TZ Bar. Don says, Wendy Phillips stood for us in OTC and was quickly removed. That's right. She was. And Wendy Phillips is a true American patriot. I love Wendy Phillips to death. This is from David Hand. This went out last Thursday. It has been an honor and privilege to serve as the chairman of the Republican Party of Minnesota since my election in 2021. Oh, there it is, 2021. Okay. We have made great strides together. Today, I am formally announcing my re-election campaign. I would be humbled to have your continued support as I work to strengthen our party and build the Republican coalition across our state for another 2 years. You know who he doesn't want, Dawson, in that coalition? He doesn't want Action for Liberty. He doesn't want us. That guy won't even come on our show. As if we're like, not even that important. I think he knows, which is why these guys tried lawfare against us, that we actually represent a lot of people in this state. A lot of people are pretty pissed at them. All right, so anyhow, no one believes you in the Republican coalition. Not number 3. To help strengthen and build this critical coalition is important we have a solid leadership team for the party. Donna Bergstrom has been a trusted and effective deputy over the past 3 years. I am grateful for her service and the contributions she has made. As I anticipate the work we have in front of us, I believe Kip Christensen as deputy chair will bring the skills and talents the party needs in the next 2 years. In consideration of that, I support his election as deputy chair. Oh my God, throwing her under the bus there. Oh wow. I mean, this is the problem. If you listen to this, okay, Donna, if you're listening to this, okay, first of all, no big fan of Donna. Donna literally was at our office. What was that, 2022? She came to our office. She was pleading, we need some help. You know, she's very impressed with what we're doing here. Pleaded for her help. We need some people to run in some of these districts we had trouble recruiting. So they're literally asking for help. We had the deputy chair, the MNGOP, asking for help. And it was weeks later, David Hand, using the email of the Republican Party chair, accused Action for Liberty of committing a felony and basically applauding that we had lawfare against us by the Campaign Finance Board, which I think they were behind, by the way. So that's who these guys are. They're jokesters. And then, by the way, Donna did not stand up for Otter Tail County people. You know, Donna, if you're going to turn your back on the grassroots and then these establishment hacks turn their back on you, you're left with no friends. Now, let that be a lesson. All right, but anyhow, complete slight to Donna Bergstrom here, obviously. As you may know, Kip was a delegate to the Republican National Committee and served as Deputy State Director Donald Trump's campaign in Minnesota, which lost, by the way. He has a decade-long work history within the Republican Party at the grassroots level and has earned the trust of our members across the state. Working together, I believe we as a party can reach our goals. I hope to speak with each of you individually before our meeting on the 14th. As I campaign for re-election, I must continue to hear your ideas, feedback, questions, and concerns. A victorious party runs on partnership and collaboration, and building a vision together is a large part of the key to turning our state red. By the way, maybe we should reach out to David Hannigan and see if he'll come on the show. Bring out your case. We got a couple things to talk to you about.
Unite Minnesota.
What's that?
I said Unite Minnesota.
Yeah, Unite Minnesota, David Hand. As this campaign kicks off, I'd like to highlight a few of the accomplishments our party has seen since we began working together. Okay, this will be great. Number 1, hosted the party's most successful Lincoln Reagan dinner with President Donald Trump, raising almost $1 million. I mean, okay, take credit of that. I'm pretty sure you didn't really have much to do with that. But yes, a successful dinner. Advocated for a complete Trump Force 47 investment in Minnesota, received 22 staff, field offices, and $1 million. Whatever. They were going to do that anyhow. Number 3, assisted in the HRCC's efforts to successfully end the DFL's trifecta. Not win the Minnesota House. See how we got a shifting goalpost here? Number 4, retired the party's legacy debt ahead of schedule. Oh, did you? You actually expanded debt, and if it wasn't for Donald Trump coming to your Lincoln Reagan dinner, you would still be in debt to this day. So thank you, Donald Trump, for retiring the debt of the party. By the way, I know people that don't want to give a dime to the Republican Party of Minnesota, but they did because Donald Trump came there. So really, it was Donald Trump that retired that debt. Provided resources to federal, state, and local candidates across Minnesota, including several successful school board, city council, and county commissioner candidates. By the way, what a range that is. Obviously not enough because they all failed. So congratulations on that. You're supposed to do that. You know, that's the most interesting bullet point, isn't it? Like, what's the role and job of the Republican Party? I don't know, to provide resources to federal, state, and local candidates across Minnesota. That's like the job description. That's not a success story. That's your damn job description. All right, next one. Earned $100,000 from the RNC through successful implementation of multiple phases of the GROW program with communications, digital, whatever. What does that even mean? What does that mean? Okay, number whatever. Renovated the state fair booth and set a new party record for highest daily net sales. I'm guessing they didn't even do as well as Action for Liberty's booth, which is smaller, by the way. No one I know, and you went to the state fair, no one was talking about the GOP booth. You know, everyone was talking about the Never Walls booth. No one was talking about the GOP booth. Diversified communications within the party through a new podcast, Wide Awake Minnesota.
Is he plugging his...
I knew you were going to like that one, Dawson.
It's so good. I watch it every single day.
Well, you don't watch it because they don't actually, it's not a video show. It's not a podcast.
I just put on the audio and then look up pictures of David Hann and just sit
When's the
there
last time they did it? Do this. Google Wide Awake Minnesota. Have they even done one in a while? Wide Awake Minnesota.
Honestly, I'm not sure because I just watched I just listened to the previous ones over and over. November 1st was the most recent.
They haven't even done a post-election.
Look at that.
They haven't even done a post-election. November 1st. It's the 26th today. What was the one before that? I can't see the screen.
October 16th.
So what do? One a month?
Almost 2.
Wow.
He did 2 on October 1st, though. So.
Oh, there you
he's
go.
An overachiever.
It is such a snooze fest.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not great.
By the way, you want to make those shows interesting, have me on your show. That would be really interesting.
I've got a studio you can use if you want better audio.
Yeah, exactly. Next one. Partner with Somali and East African Republicans to broaden the Republican tent through hiring an outreach director and Somali contractors. They hired Somali contractors. Really? That's interesting. I'll let Razzle Dazzle take that one down. And then last one, toured the state to train BPOUs in August 2023 to focus on capitalizing on the off year and in January. Once again, if you look up your job description, that's a bullet point in your job description. It's unbelievable. But of course, why would we expect anything different? This is the Republican Party of Minnesota. There you go. Okay, let's go into the post show. I do appreciate all the comments today. We are going to, so if you're not a subscriber, you can go to truthhurtsnews.com. I got some really interesting stuff. We're going to talk about Jennifer DeJournette, thing I just learned about that. Who wants to come on our show, which might happen next week. We'll see about that. I got some other stuff. Oh, we got Tucker 91. Great show, guys. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you for the Rumble rant. I wasn't going to mention it, but I was like, I think our streak just ended. Oh, no. But it continues on.
Yeah, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. It is a happy Thanksgiving, Tucker. Appreciate it very much. Once again, you can go to truthhurtsnews.com/JBP for your chance to win your front row seat tickets to Jordan Peterson in St. Paul. Come join us on the post show. This is going to be good. I got some really good stuff on the post show. This is our last show before Thanksgiving, too. We're not going to be here on Thursday. I'll be watching my Bears lose to the Lions. By the way, I'm like a quiet Lions fan these days. You know, they're very impressive. I like what Dan Campbell's been doing, and I don't mean I just became a Lions fan. Like, I liked him 2 years ago. I was like, this team is for real. And then last year, everyone kind of saw it, especially when you opened up by being the Chiefs. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Mary Kay. Appreciate it very much. I love you guys. The audience is so great. You make the show worth doing. I love it so much. And we have some pretty big plans, including, did I show you the
You sent them to me. We haven't talked about it yet.
Okay, yeah, we got to talk about the news truck.
I'll bring it up.
Oh, so much fun. Oh, my God. Okay, well, happy Thanksgiving. See you next week. By the way, if you want to see me do the auction at the Action for Liberty Christmas event, go to actionforliberty.com and around the top, sign up for some tickets to the Christmas party. That is so damn fun. Can't even begin to tell you. Dawson will be there doing some video stuff. Jesse's going to be speaking. So come to the Christmas party, Action for Liberty. It's so much fun. Also, if you're not a subscriber, please join us in the post show. You're not going to want to miss what I got for you. For everyone else, I'll see you next Tuesday. Take care. God bless.